Imafidon. First of all, you're very welcome to our studios.
Pleasure to be here.
And it's wonderful to have you today.
Thank you.
Quite a lot of things, including the World Cup fever that is going on right now throughout the United Kingdom, supporting the England team in South Africa. But first of all, let's see what the students are doing concerning the science GCSEs. Now, Loveworld has actually said that it is not tough enough, and because of that, the papers were actually rejected.
Yes, but that's the beauty of the system, because you can't just set a question and administer it to the students. You have to set questions, you have to be approved by the individual exam board, and the boards have to send it to a central body that standardizes the knowledge that's required. Most of recent science questions have been based on knowledge rather than logic. So if you just ask students straightforward questions and then expect them to regurgitate, that's not science. That's not scientific inquiry. That's not scientific inquiry. That's not scientific exploration. You want the student to be able to look at, yes, this is hydrogen and this is oxygen. The combination of the two of them will give you water, and water is a liquid rather than being a gas that made them up originally. So if you just say what is water and then you just write a chemical formula for water, what you're really tasking the students are short-term memory. What we want to be able to see is, do they comprehend your questions? Do they understand why two atoms of hydrogen will combine with one of oxygen to be able to give you water? So that remote has been completely taken out because they revised syllabus, and the revised syllabus under the pretense of trying to update the syllabus. That's one. Two, the learning outcomes are really what is assessed rather than the knowledge that's given. In this case, the learning outcome was ignored. If you ignore the learning outcome, it means that you cannot find out whether learning has taken place. You find out whether or not a student can photocopy literally what you've given them in past and then regurgitate it under exam condition. That's essentially what you're doing. But if you want to be a scientist, you've got to be logical. You've got to be able to reason with numbers. You've got to understand the force of scientific argument. And such questions can be introduced at a very young age, and nobody should say that GCSE is not the appropriate level to test science.
Apart from sciences, they've also said that more maths is actually needed in the GCSEs.
Because mathematics is the brain of the sciences. If you remove the brain from it, then what you have is a hole. You cannot say you're teaching science without coming out with numbers to demonstrate. For instance, I just said the formula for water is H2O. If you remove the 2, then you have hydrogen peroxide, which is totally different thing from water. So you cannot ignore the mathematical concepts that underline any scientific argument that reveals any scientific discovery that we've had. So you have to have maps. We've had similar discussions in the past when people look at a biology paper for a year, and I found out that 4 of them were mathematically inclined. They show the graphs of hormones, and they show the production of hormones over years. Now, if you don't understand statistics, you will not be able to answer that question, even if you are the best biologist in the world, quote-unquote biology. If you understand hormones, and you don't understand hormones over time, it means you are not going to look at the production of hormones and the cyclic production of hormones. So you have to sit down and say, yes, this is the amount of hormones secreted now in one organ. This is what happens 2 days later. This is what happens 3 days later. This is what happens 4 days later. So you cannot really successfully teach science without knowing the mathematical concept that you reveal.
So parents who actually want the students to do sciences will have to encourage them to do more maths.
Yes, if you don't know, if you hate numbers and you hate maths, you're likely to have severe difficulties dealing with science at a very high level.
Let's look at the vetting scheme now for 9 million adults who are going to be working with children. Home Secretary Theresa May has said it has been postponed now. Why do you think it has been such a step?
Some people will say it's regional because Labour went on to the other extreme, saying that remember, if you're a bus driver and you take a lot of students, you have to be CRB checked, you have to be vetted. If you're a grandmother that wanted to help out the school on a trip, because some grandmothers are free, they are retired, and then you know your grandson is going to visit the museum, you want to volunteer the time. Before you could do it, and the school will accept you, but now you have to be checked and you have to be vetted. Literally every single author that goes to schools to go and read their books to students, to encourage them and give them the love for the reading, has to be vetted. So when you look at bureaucracy literally going all the way across, the Conservative honestly did say when we were in power that they will do all the laws that have been done that are not effective, just doing it as an immediate reaction to a particular mishap that's taking place. That's not the best way to govern a group of people. You have to look at what happens, you have to look at the trend of what happens, and you have to see the unfortunate incidents and see how you can forestall them against reoccurrence. You don't just come out with a new legislation each time there is something that has gone wrong, because the law does not solve all the problems. Implementation of the law will assist in reducing evil in our children. So I understand our fears, I understand the fact that it's gone too far, just swung, depending on the swung, too far to the other side of regulation.
Is that overreaction?
I wouldn't call it overreaction, and it's a pragmatic decision to make sure that the people that would have helped schools, helped hospitals, helped young people so are being invited back, because not everybody is guilty, because the law, as it stands today, presumes that you are guilty until you've been checked to be innocent. But the real spirit of the law says you are innocent until you are found guilty. So you shouldn't assume that every single person that wants to work with children is the pervert until you have established that the person has manifested some tendencies before. So I understand it's a very pragmatic move, and it's expensive, very expensive, and it causes a lot of delays at the beginning of the academic year. Because if you recruit a new staff, you have to make sure that your new staff is re-vetted, even if that staff, listen to this is interesting, even that staff was vetted in their own institution. So if you're a teacher and you're teaching in a school, and for any reason you move house or you move job to a new LEA or a new school, they will have to go back and check that you are not on the register or you've not done something like this before. I think that was quite honestly too bureaucratic. I understand why she will want to streamline all the checks.
Now let's go back to students who are receiving help with their IT and their laptops, especially for the underprivileged, and the $100 laptop that has undergone a facelift now. Will this make any difference at all?
It is interesting because you asked that question in 2010, because there is hardly any knowledge that takes place now that was not first minted electronically. So most of the books are printed PDF files. Most of the files that you have now, so-called slides that you show in class, are generated by PowerPoint slides or any of those presentational software. There's hardly any library that you have in the world that can in any way run the internet or web as you have in other books. So it is very, very self-evident that if you have a laptop, as a student, you will learn a lot more than if you didn't have a laptop, because you then rely on the tools and the techniques that your grandfather or your great-grandfather used, because they had to use a library, they had to use paper books, they had to work through things laboriously. But this time, at the click of a mouse, you'll be able to get information at the fingertips. And if anybody really wants to enjoy learning, not for the sake of studying, but for the case of learning, if you want to explore and do that effortlessly, if you want to do it at your pace, if you're going to do it at your own, if you're going to set pace, then electronic learning is a must. And mustn't be debated at all, because it gives undue advantage to people that have such facilities.
What measures are going to be put in place to ensure that this is not emotional abuse by the students, that they didn't go to the wrong side or do other things in class, but they need to be learning the laptops?
Legitimate fear, that's a good fear. But what we have are new softwares that are able to lock you into some website, and others are able to shut you off other websites. So if you know the IP addresses of certain websites, it's easy, you can put the IP address there. That is the unique identifying number of the internet machine that we've put in out the field. So if you know there's a field coming out from the website, you can locate the website and lock it out, just like preventing the children from going to certain areas in the house. So you can electronically lock them from going to certain websites. That's one. Two, you can look for certain phrases or sentences or words, and you can use that as a search. So if there's any website that has such words in them, you shut them out. So you can block non-decent websites and make sure that the child is protected and works on websites that are friendly to them. And thirdly, you can load all the relevant websites that you've been to that you know are educational and make that available exclusively to the students. Although that will exclude them from using things like the online dictionary, using things like Wikipedia, online encyclopedia that are available. That has some shortfalls. But no parent should be in any doubt that if you have a computer in front of the child will learn much more